Okay, well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So it's so fun how this online recovery community works. We have a mutual friend who was like, "Hey, you have to interview Lisa." So I was like, "Okay, let's." And then after we started chatting, it was like, "Wow, we really are aligned in the way we think." I know that you're a mindset and manifesting coach. You have some certifications. One of your teachers, Mike Dooley, was on The Secret. Oh my God. I love that movie. That movie rocked my world when that came out. When did that come out? Like, was that late 90s or is it early
I think it
2000s?
was early 2000s. It definitely was before I got sober, um, but only by a couple of years. And that did rock my world too.
Yeah, it blew my mind. Just the
Mhm.
ideas about how we are more in control than we are already using the law of attraction, just not to our benefit. So it's nice to know what the rules are so that you can not manipulate them, but use them to your advantage, which is what the universe intended in the first place, don't you think?
Exactly. We're manifesting all the time. So why not manifest what lights us up?
That's right. Let's start manifesting some joy. Let
Mhm.
the healing begin. So I like to start with a little game I used to call the lightning round, but I just take forever to get through it. So now it's more like the turtle round, but it's super fun. Do you want to play?
I love games.
Games are
Bring it
good.
on.
Okay, so the first question is did you have a favorite book early in recovery that really changed your mind?
Yeah. I'd say the very first book I ever read was called Drinking a Love Story
Oh,
by
yeah.
Caroline Knapp. That
Yes.
one really kind of galvanized things for me. And the other one that I have to mention is Dry by Augustine Burroughs. I absolutely love his writing. He wrote Running with Scissors,
You're right.
and they made the movie about that book. He's just so funny, and oh, that book is so great too.
So
Mhm.
many amazing books are being written. I just love all the recovery memoirs. There's so many
Yeah,
now. When I first got sober, I really couldn't tell you a single one. So I went right for right for Alcoholics Anonymous, the big
right.
book, as they say.
I think it's funny when I talk to different people who are at different points in their sobriety, they're reading the books that came out around when they got sober. So the books I'm referring to are ones that came out around when I got sober, like around
Oh,
2006. They were like somewhere around that time when they came out. But I know Drinking a Love Story was probably one of the biggest and the best. That was kind of spearheaded the whole memoir around getting sober.
well, even before that, there was like Anna David's Party Girl.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. There was a couple others that are escaping me at the moment, but and it makes sense, right? Because in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the back is all stories.
Yeah.
It's all recovery memoirs, basically,
Yeah.
people's stories, and that's what 12-step meetings are. So
Yeah.
very, very cool. It is, you're right. It is interesting how we read the books that are published around the time that we got sober because it's in your
Yeah.
face, right?
Yeah.
They're getting
Yeah.
all the press. That's
Uh-huh.
awesome. Do you have a go-to mantra or quote that you use often?
Oh, I love quotes.
Me too.
Um, but they change all
Yeah.
the time. So, I mean, I'm just looking at my journal right here, and I like this quote. It says,
Ask
"Ask
for,
for what you want and be prepared to get it."
ooh, yeah, that's like that old saying, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole manifesting thing, right? We're always manifesting. But also, another quote that I love that I actually have on my website is one by Gabby Bernstein. And hers is something to the effect of all of her detours, all of her obstacles were detours in the right direction. So
Mm,
just, obstacles aren't stop signs, they're stepping stones.
hmm. Love that. Yeah, she lectures a lot on A Course in Miracles.
Hmm. Oh,
It's
yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the
Big fan.
foundation.
Big
Yeah,
fan.
love her. Yeah, I liked her book, The Universe Has Your Back.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I think the latest one was Super Tractor. Was it Super
Yep,
Tractor or
yep.
was it Judgment Detox?
I think Super Attractor is her most
That was the
recent.
last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have her deck of cards right here.
Me too. Me
So
too.
good.
I have a lot of her books.
Yeah. Um, okay, that's good. Do you have a regular self-care or recovery routine, schedule, anything like that?
Um, I have a morning ritual that I have um honed, I guess you'd say, but it morphs and evolves to it all the time. But there's some basics. Have you ever read the book The Miracle Morning
Oh yeah.
by Hal
Hal
Elrod?
Elrod. Yeah.
So yeah, I used to do yoga, meditation, and journaling, and then I read The Miracle Morning, and I that just kind of upped my morning ritual game. And now I kind of throw in some extras here and there. So like in his book, it's the acronym SAVERS:
Oh, that's right.
silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling.
Ooh, good for
So
you. You're such a good student. You remembered it all.
I'm
That's
a bit of
impressive.
a, yeah, I'm a bit of a disciple, I guess you could say. I love Hal Elrod's work. But then I also sometimes I might throw in some tapping, like EFT tapping. It's all very organic on how I'm feeling.
Mhm.
There's so many different amazing tools to pull out, but that morning ritual really is kind of non-negotiable. There's not a morning that I don't, even if it's just gratitude. I
Oh
like
yeah.
cacao, and so I might make a little like cup of sacred cacao with my gratitude moment and with some visualization thrown in. So being grateful for what I already have, and then also what I visualize coming in, um, to kind of up the vibe. That's really something that I look forward to.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the morning ritual is so important to me too. Yeah, do
Yeah.
you know Hal Elrod and Anna David actually? We were just talking about Party Girl. They wrote one for recovery.
I didn't know I saw that book, but I didn't know it
Yeah.
was with Anna David.
Yeah, Anna David, Joe Polish,
Okay.
and I think was there one more? I don't remember now. But yeah, that was a pretty cool. I was like, yay, they're focused on recovery. That was super good.
So many of those books
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he's smart. He widens his audience with that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
What's one thing you wish you knew when you first got sober?
Um, just the freedom and the peace of mind that comes with um, doing the work, like getting to the other side of um, getting to know yourself, getting to know your authentic self is so freeing. And there's just a lot of peace of mind that comes with doing the work. And when I say doing the work, I did go to AA. You referenced the big book, so that's how my journey started too.
Hmm.
And I think that work is invaluable. I really do. There's a lot of other programs out there, and a lot of um, anti-AAers, or not anti-AAers, but just don't really resonate with the book. It's dated, and I totally get that. Um, but in my mind, thankfully, I had, as they say, the gift of desperation, and
Desperation. Yeah.
I I went with the slogan, "Keep an open mind." So I
Yeah.
just kept an open mind. There were so many things that rubbed me the wrong way, like so many things. Um, but I was able to like interpret it how I wanted to it, and
I did
like
the
take what you
same
need and
thing.
leave the rest, sort of thing. And yeah, that by doing that work, I'd say the gift is the freedom and peace of mind.
It's so funny you say that because I wasn't really conscious of it, but it was a continuous sort of interpreting a little bit of translation
Yes.
going on. because it was sort of old language, it is very patriarchal,
Mhm.
very Christian. I was a little religious trauma going on when I first went,
Oh
but I
my
was
God.
so
Same.
yeah, so desperate for the solution. I was doing this continuous process of translating what they really meant.
Exactly.
He's
Like
saying this, but what they really mean is that.
totally. I did the same. I couldn't even say the G word for the longest time. Like I was just
I
anti.
get that.
They keep saying it's not a religious program, it's a spiritual program. But why does it sound so Christian? Like, really, but
Yeah.
again, like just translating it and interpreting it to make it work for me. I am
Yes.
spiritual. I'm going to be spiritual. I'm going to figure out what that means to me. And so, yeah.
That's why we always talk. That's why people talk a lot about higher power. They don't say God, they just say higher power a lot.
And of your own understanding. That piece was
Right.
so important too.
Yeah. That left the door open for me,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun these days?
Oh, well, Toronto had locked down for so
I
long.
know.
Um, and we're still fairly restricted, but it's been so much better. So I definitely, a lot more people are vaccinated here, and I'm getting out and seeing friends. My favorite thing is travel, but I haven't really left. I haven't gone very far, other than like a couple hours north of Toronto to visit friends in the woods and family. So really, road trips I love. And anytime my 17-year-old son wants to do something fun, which he really doesn't, that's kind of a joke. After he's been locked up with me for 16, 17 months, he
Oh
doesn't want to
God.
do anything with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still find fun with him.
That's awesome. Very good. So now we can transition to the portion where I am so curious about your story. I would love to hear sort of what like your family of origin was like when you were growing up. And then ultimately, I think what's so important is what happened. There's this thing called an epiphany bridge, right? Where you were thinking one way, alcohol is not a problem, it's the solution, it's your friend. It's like there's no way on earth I'm going to give it up. And then we go through sort of like something happens, and then we have like this epiphany, and we're like, no, abstinence is absolutely the way. So if you can kind of touch on those things, I would love to hear your story.
Okay, sure. So I grew up in small town Ontario, which is, Ontario is a province in Canada, and where I grew up was just, about an hour and a half north of Toronto. But my dad was blue collar worker. My mom was a stay at home mom. I was the oldest of three kids. Um, Very heavy, not heavy, but Catholic. I went to a Catholic school. We went to church on Sundays. We did Lent. Um, and so home life was pretty kind of normal growing up in this small little suburban, very small town. And it was in the 70s. So there was a lot of swinger kind of I sensed, as looking back, I was like, oh wow, they were probably having key parties or something. I don't know. There was parties where I would get taken and put to bed on the bed, get to sleep on the bed of coats at different people's houses. On Yeah, all the kids would go to the parties, but then they would sleep in the room with all the coats on the bed. So anyways, it was fine. I mean, there wasn't any heavy drinking by my parents, but when I turned 13, my dad left my mom, and it was a shock because he was having an affair with her best friend, and we did not know about any of that. So he just kind of left. And my mother, she just shrunk and crawled under a rock of depression. And that's when she started drinking more heavily. And so I think that for me is the turning point in like this kind of normal childhood. And at 13, just about to go into high school, my mom disappeared. I felt abandoned, basically. And my new home became this pool hall, restaurant slash pool hall that sold underage kids beer. So I and my newfound kind of misfit friends, we used to go to this pool hall and drink Miller Lite for I think it was like $2 a beer or $1.50 a beer. And I got a job, a part-time job. I wanted to make my own money, and yeah, so that was the beginning of the my coping mechanism. Like I used to see my mom drink, and it would just devastate me. Um, she just couldn't deal with the fact that she lost her husband and her best friend, and she was totally kind of ostracized in a way from the town too. Like she didn't get the support. And looking back, I'm like, who came to see if we kids were doing okay? Like who was helping us kids? I was 13, my brother was 7, and my sister was 3 at the time. And my mom was just hungover in the morning. We had to get ourselves ready for school. And yeah, so it was tough. Dad came and got us for church on Sundays and took us to lunch and then dropped us off. And that's pretty much when I boycotted the Catholic Church, because my dad was a hypocrite in my mind. And that's when my anti-religion kicked in, and the self-righteous and justified anger kicked in. But yeah, alcohol became my coping mechanism pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
What happened? Well, I guess I wasn't a daily drinker. I was a binge drinker with my friends through high school and college, and got myself through pretty good as a functioning partier. I lived for the weekends. I moved to Toronto. I said goodbye to that small town mentality, and I was all about, I was starstruck by a big city, and but it was all about, where's the next best party? Like, let's find the cool people. And then it just kept progressing, and recreational drugs came in. I started, using other substances to prolong the party weekend. I wanted to still be awake. I did not want it to end, basically. I just, what do they say? You even said it earlier, like alcohol wasn't my problem. It was my solution. Reality was my problem. I just did not want to be in reality. So like the hangovers, the depression, the cycle of, starting to feel better after a couple of days. And then it would be, a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Friday coming into the weekend, doing the thing all over again. So
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it was exhausting. And gosh, waking up feeling great never gets old. Like waking up early and feeling great. In the hot summer too, like I think about how dehydrated I used to feel with those hangovers.
I know. Do you remember like in that sort of twilight just before you wake up after a night of drinking, like you're just about to wake up, like your mind is waking up, but your body's like still asleep, and just thinking about drinking a big glass of water?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, so dehydrated. Oh my God. So what happened that you decided that drinking was a problem, that you wanted to be sober? Did that feel, I'm sure that feeling must have been present for a long time, because you did talk about the, being desperate to be sober. So that typically involves.
Well, I mean, actually, because all the people I was hanging out with in my 20s and 30s were working professionals, but, worked hard and played hard, I actually didn't really think there was anything wrong with what I was doing. I loved it. I was always trying to follow the fun. Where am I going to find more fun? I prided myself on knowing where the best parties were, where the after hours were, what DJs, I got into the rave scene a bit too, like in the late 90s. Yeah. I was all about electronic music, and so I moved around from different kind of genres. I went.
Okay, I just have to say it's a little bit hilarious because You do not look like somebody who is into the rave scene. Looking at you today, you do not.
Well,
I would not
mhm.
have guessed that about you. I thought maybe you might work at the church or in a library.
Oh my God, no.
little little did we know that there's a freak under those glasses. I
Oh
love
yeah,
that.
big time. I had fuchsia hair. I wore fun fur, like tall hats. I had like
Lisa.
high platform sneakers and the wide,
Yeah,
raver clothes.
all that stuff. Do you have any tattoos?
No, that's one thing I never did do was get it. I
Oh,
never
it's
got a
not too
tattoo.
late.
Yeah,
I didn't get a tattoo till I was like mid 40s.
I always thought about it, but then yeah, no, I never went that far. But the different colored hair and
Yeah.
stuff, it got.
No, you are adorable. I could see with all the costuming. I could
Yeah,
just
that
we could have partied together for sure.
yeah. Well, that was what it was about. Like, but I
Yeah.
could never ever do that without a drink first, like even
Uh,
to go out, to get out of the house, like to,
had to pregame,
yes, exactly.
as
Yeah.
they say, as the cool kids say. You
Yeah.
got to
So
pregame.
it wasn't until so I had I was traveling a lot. I was doing the whole geographical tour or geographical cure. And one of those times discovered I was pregnant. I was in Guatemala at the time and I didn't know that I was pregnant. I just couldn't understand why I didn't feel like drinking or smoking because I smoked cigarettes too at that time. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was 36 or 35. And it was almost like this is actually what I need. I knew when I did the geographical cure, when I left Toronto indefinitely and decided to travel through Central America, I knew that I needed a change. And I thought maybe by changing, I wouldn't be drinking as much down there. But of course, I was still in bars and finding other people like me. But I got pregnant and I was I was like, this is the change I need. And I'm gonna be an awesome mom. I always did things unconventionally. And I spoke to the dad and I said, I am going to have this child and I want you, he was very upset. Um, but I said, I'm gonna have the baby whether or not you want to be involved. So when my son was 2 was when I had that moment of clarity.
Mm.
I was like, can I how can I drink the way I like to drink and still not have my son grow up and see me with a glass of wine in my hand or see me getting drunk the way I saw my mom getting drunk? Like I just couldn't reconcile. I really wanted to still drink. I really, really wanted to have that as part of my life. But I was like, how's it gonna work? So that was like my first little moment of clarity. And then the bottom came not that long after that. It was just a hangover. It was one of the hangovers that, lots of times I woke up and said, I can't do this anymore. But this particular hangover, it was a weekday night. I stayed up way too late with a girlfriend, woke up at 7 to get my son up to take him to daycare so that I could go to work. And I just looked in the mirror at myself and I was just like, I can't scrape this feeling with the toothbrush off of me. Like it just felt disgusting. The hangovers just killer. And before I went to work, like my son's father, who did stay involved, came to get my son. He took him to daycare and I called work and I said, I'm going to be a little bit late. And I sat down and I wrote an email to a friend who I knew I used to party with, who had kind of disappeared from the scene. And I knew that she had quit drinking. And I wrote her an email saying, please don't tell anybody. Please don't tell anybody. Because
Mm.
again, the ego, like who would care? But I was just
The
like,
shame, the
the
shame.
shame, I guess. I was like, how did you stop drinking? And do you think I can still be happy? Like I just,
Oh.
I want to be happy. If we remove the booze, how can I still be happy? How can I still have
Right.
fun?
Yeah.
That was my fear.
That's yeah. Not unique.
Yeah.
Can I
And she
quit
wrote me
and
back.
still be happy?
She wrote me back and she said, "Let's go for coffee. I'll tell you what I did." And ugh, we went to Starbucks like a day later, and she kind of pushed the big book of AA towards me, and flipped,
Recoiled?
I recoiled. I recoiled. I looked around the cafe. I was like,
Oh
Jesus,
shit.
like, come on.
It's like drugs. Remember back in the day when you're like trying to slide drugs to somebody, everyone's like looking around like you're all shady.
Right.
She hands you the solution and we're like, oh shit.
Exactly. It was the same. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what happened too
Yeah.
in early recovery. I felt like I was living a different double life,
Mm-hmm.
just not wanting to tell anybody what I was up to.
I get it.
Hmm.
I get it.
So
That's rough.
yeah,
So you started the whole 12 steps and did the whole
she just offered like, here, take the book, see what you think. And I went directly to those stories that you were talking about earlier, in the back of the book, and those were what resonated with me straight away. I was like, oh my god, wow, I had no idea that, it was that whole feeling thing I identified with the most in the stories. And then I was just like, oh man, I so did not want to go to meetings. I so didn't like the idea. It was that shame, that embarrassment, that this is so not cool. Um,
so not cool. My son says that A is for quitters.
really,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
he's
How
right.
old's your,
Yeah.
how old's your son?
Well, I have two. It was my older one he'll be 21 this month, actually.
Okay,
Yeah, we joke it's like a running joke in our house
that's
because like
funny.
we got sober before he was born.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my son doesn't remember me at all. I
No,
wasn't even
no.
drinking that much when he was young. I mean, it was a slippery slope. I could feel, oh God, I'm gonna be going back to as bad as I was before I got pregnant.
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
And I just couldn't do
Brutal.
it.
Yeah, that's brutal. But so that even though you hated the idea of going to meetings, you decided to go anyway.
Yeah. She said she would take me, and I took my son with me, and um you know, I'll never forget that first meeting. Like when people stand at the end and hold hands in a circle and say the serenity prayer,
Mm,
I was just, I was so full of myself. Like I was just like, this is so weird. Like people do this. And yet at the same time, I knew this is exactly where I needed to be. Like too much was said in that 60 minutes that I was like, oh my God, I am so meant to be here.
did you have that feeling? Did you have that feeling like you didn't want it to be the answer and you were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, like it's so funny how you can have that same feeling at the same time. It's like, I don't want to do what I was doing, but this is so uncool. This is so lame. So lame. But at the same time, you're like that real. I remember what they used to write welcome home on the chalkboards that,
Yeah.
and I would be like secretly so relieved,
Right.
secretly
Yeah.
so relieved. These people were speaking a language I understood. Like they got my kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And suddenly I found a new normal.
Yeah. But for
Yeah.
the first, I don't know, first 3 months at least, I would sit in the back of any meeting, like kind of like guarded if I could wear a cap or
Hiding. Yeah.
sunglasses.
Sunglasses. Yeah,
I couldn't speak to
sunglasses.
anybody. I would start to bawl. Like I couldn't
Oh,
share. I
yeah.
I just it was like when you shake a bottle and it's got like effervescence and you start to open the lid and it starts to I knew if I started to speak, it would just blow the lid right off and I would be a blubbering mess. And I just wasn't ready to do that in the
Yeah.
early days.
You know what's funny is knowing what I know now when I go to meetings and someone's crying, I go, they are ready. They are
Right.
feeling it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, we repress so much and we shove it down and we deny, we disassociate, we
yeah,
disconnect, that you do it for as long as you can do it. And when you cannot take it any longer and you're ready for the solution, the relief is so overwhelming. It like, tears are
right.
pain leaving the body, right?
Yeah,
All that stuff that you had been holding in and starts to come out your eyes.
yeah. Comes out
Comes
any
out. Thank
way it can.
God. Thank
Mm,
God.
I know.
Get it
Yeah.
out. It's like detox, emotional detox, I guess.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, did you do the whole deal? The whole you got a sponsor and work the 12 steps? And
Yeah.
did
Yeah. And
you?
I still was going to meetings like up until the pandemic hit. I mean,
Hmm.
I was even going to meetings online in the beginning, but I found that I just didn't like the Zoom AA meetings. I couldn't get the same energy connection.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, I did the whole thing, and it took me a long time to come out. I stayed quiet. The only people that knew I was in recovery for many, many years were close friends and family. Like um
Were you
once I got
ashamed?
sober, what's that?
Were you ashamed? Embarrassed that you
Yeah,
were in
the
AA? Yeah.
stigma. The
The
stigma.
stigma. Yeah.
I just couldn't I still would look at people in recovery through the eyes of someone who didn't understand or didn't get it. Like I was trying to put myself in the place of how would I be viewed by somebody who didn't understand that there's nothing wrong with me. They would
Yeah.
think like, ooh, I've seen that show Intervention. I've seen the way people go
Loser. Yeah.
like I just I almost felt like I have to tell people, but I had a high bottom. Like I just couldn't say or mention it to, and in my second year of recovery, I left my career because you transform so much. I was like, I'm going for something completely different. I jumped into entrepreneurship and wanted to be like a work from home mom
Hmm.
so I could be in my son's life more. And that was a huge journey, just becoming a solopreneur. But I didn't want any. I was like, I can't tell. I'm not telling, and you don't have to. I mean, they say you don't need to tell anybody that you're in recovery. But I didn't want any of my clients to know that side of me. It was only until like 2017. So I got sober in 2006. So I was at like 10, 11 years sober when I finally was just like, I've had enough of, I call it coming out of the closet. I don't care anymore if people know that I'm sober, if they knew that I was addicted to alcohol. I so don't care. And I just kind of announced it on I think it was my 11-year anniversary. I just put a big post out on Facebook about it. And of course, the response was like huge. And I had so many people personal DM me, can we go for coffee? I need to talk to
Oh,
you,
oh
which
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. Like I was happy to meet people who had questions about how I got sober, and I helped a few people, uh, quite, a handful of women I can think of where they're now sober. Like I could have announced it a long time ago, but I just wasn't ready at that time.
Yeah. It's a definitely a personal journey for everyone.
Hmm.
My
Hmm.
feeling is that I didn't drink anonymously, so I didn't get sober anonymously. Yeah, I mean, I had no problem showing my ass to the world while I was loaded, but God forbid anybody know that I'm doing any kind of self-improvement.
Right. I
So
know.
ass backwards.
Or
Yeah.
like wanting to be healthy. Like
Yeah. It's the only drug you have to explain not using.
right.
Yeah, it's
So true.
ridiculous. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're out there with your story and that you're helping others. Just by sharing your story normalizes it, right? It's actually very normal. Everybody's addicted to something. We all use different things to distract from our pain, but in recovery, we're able to learn how to do like the emotion management stuff that's so important. Um, And I want to transition a little bit to the kind of work that you do now, because when you and I first started talking, I was like so excited. I was like, oh, she totally gets me. You know, you're interested in like Dr. Joe Dispenza does all this work around quantum physics, epigenetics, neuroscience. And I just find that endlessly fascinating because in the beginning, I was like, oh, I wish I had this when I first got sober because I didn't have faith. I was really struggling with my higher power, having faith, and all that stuff. And Dr. Joe Dispenza has a way of explaining, mystical concepts with science, right? And
Right.
they say that science is now the contemporary language of the mystics. And so being able to learn how to adjust your mindset, identify and change those limiting beliefs, and then leverage the law of attraction so that it benefits you, because you're, like you said before, you're already using it anyway, so you might as well use it to your benefit. um, can you tell me a little bit about your 90-day programs? Is it say hello to your future self?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, it is, I love, the whole science thing. Some people think it's kind of woo woo when you talk about law of
It's
attraction, but
so not.
it's energy, right? It's
Yeah.
just all energy. And so I like helping people go from where they are right now to where they dream about where they could possibly be. And it's all about doing things and behaving as that person in the future. Like, how would your future self make this decision? Or if they made this decision, how would they behave? And it's about like understanding that those thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are really, you can see things through a different lens whenever you're ready. It's all perspective and perception. And, if you woke up tomorrow after being in an accident and had amnesia, and somebody told you you were an award winning concert pianist, you could rehab yourself to become a concert
Yes.
pianist.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the capability that we all have within us, and it's just about believing what's possible. Everything we want in life, everything we desire already exists in the form of potential. So it's just about understanding, I'm thinking this, I would really like to make that thing happen, and then behaving from that place. It's not always going to be how you think it's going to. You can't micromanage the how either. Like, that's kind of the fun of it, knowing that, I can let some of this go. The universe is supporting me when I'm on that kind of frequency, in harmony with the thing that I want. So just keep taking baby steps. And a lot of the time, all the time, you have to be doing things outside your comfort zone. Like,
Hmm.
to level up, you got to do those scary things. And yeah.
And it goes in line with, the foundational principles in recovery that you learn. It's like if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's insanity, right?
Yeah.
So if you want something new, you have to have new thoughts, have new feelings. The path
Yeah.
is unknown. If it were known, you would already have it.
Right.
So I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love the whole idea of acting as if your future self that requires. So here's what I hear a lot of times is I don't even know what I want. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't really know what I want. So many people are so like disassociated from themselves out of survival, right? In childhood, we learn these survival skills that don't translate into healthy adult relationships and a healthy adult living. We do what's expected of us. How do you help people figure out what their purpose is or help them reconnect to themselves so that they can determine what they really want?
Well, I think, even if it's a desire just for something small, like, what if something is within you and you feel like, I really would like a boat. okay, just a
I
materialistic.
would like a boat.
Um, it's like, well, that's drawing you to the water. You
Mm,
obviously like being on the water. So by following the desire and continually allowing yourself to go inward, listen, and trust that intuition, trust that inner whisper, it will eventually get louder when you start to hone that into intuitive piece. And by following the desire, that I truly believe is just the universe wanting to be made manifest through you. Like everybody
mhm.
is unique in their way, and we are all coming from the same universal source energy. So it's almost our responsibility to follow that. We are meant to expand. We are meant, as everything in nature, to grow and to. So one of the things I do is I do this workshop. It's a digital vision board workshop, and it really helps people get more clarity. And even if they're not clear, then if you can't visualize it in your mind, that's okay. How do you want to feel? What is the core desired feeling, as Danielle Laporte says in her, fire starter book? What's the core desired feeling that you want to feel? Try and find an image that represents that feeling to go on your vision board. So if you want to feel joy or enthusiasm or excitement or fulfillment, we go through image searching. And does it look like fireworks? Does it look like water flowing? Does it look like a galaxy? So yeah, that's one thing I help people with, is just to start with the feeling
Start
and
with the
get it
feeling. I
clear.
love that. Find a picture that matches the feeling.
Hmm.
Follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow the joy. I love that. That's awesome. How do people find you online and find out about the work that you do?
So my website is just simply my name, Lisa Kelly, Kelly .life, because my business is called Life Unlimited. And on Instagram, it's lisakelly.life. On Facebook, it's lisakelly.life. Um, and I have a really great YouTube video that's a 5-minute guided visualization that I can send the link to. Anybody can grab it. It's really popular with people for doing creative visualization.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, send it to me and I'll include it in the newsletter too.
Sure.
I'll put it in
Okay.
the show notes and in the weekly newsletter. I'm always looking for new guided meditations.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this one's a really good one.
That's awesome. Listen, we have covered a lot of ground. I have all kinds of new. I love books. I'm obsessed with books.
Me
We
too.
identified a lot of really good books in this
Yeah.
conversation. I'm looking forward to trying out a digital vision board myself. I'm looking at one that I have in my office, but I want to try a digital one. It'd be fun to put it as a background on my phone. I was
Yeah.
thinking I've done that
Yeah.
before. That's fun.
Well, I've got a workshop coming up end of August.
End of August.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fun. Okay. End of August is your workshop.
August
So,
27th. I can send you the information.
okay. Yeah. Send me the link. We'll include it in the show notes. I love a workshop. I really do. Because workshops allow you to actually apply the information.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's so much information out there, but a workshop, I love a workshop because it does a couple of things. We apply the information
Yeah.
that we're learning and we get community. So you get you
Exactly.
meet some new sober friends, and do you have a project together and you develop sort of like this, language that you can have conversations around. It's like we all, you go through a workshop like yours and you sort of have like your own vernacular. So everybody kind of gets it, like the goal
Yeah.
and the process. And it's super
And
cool.
in every case with the vision board workshop, I've seen people who did not know each other, but when we start sharing, they're like, oh, I can help you with that. Like,
Yeah.
or, there's always a connection. People always leave with exchanging each other's information, because
Yeah.
it's more than just that. You leave with an awesome vision board, but you also leave with some
Yeah, to
connection.
me, that is probably the most interesting part of it, right? Is because your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And so
Yeah.
you're attracting people that are in a similar place on their journey. So it makes sense that you link arms and be friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
I love that. Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. It was such a pleasure to get to know you better. And I look forward to, we'll have to collaborate and do some fun stuff because we have so many of the same ideas. And I know that we both do a lot of work, transformational work
Yeah.
at the subconscious level. So thank
Love
you
it.
so much for your time today. And I hope we get to talk again really soon.
Yeah, we will for sure. Thank you, Arlena.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.